Okay, this is our last class, and I am celebrating so much. You know, I love teaching so much that this is my favorite day of the week to be able to meet with the group and have a little check-in time, talk about some things, and then give some teachings. It means a lot to me, and I am very grateful and also extremely humbled in so many ways that you would all participate in this and be such excellent students. So I want to celebrate you and say, wow, well done. It's not easy to give up your Sunday afternoon every week for months, and you did it. And it's amazing. And I'm so honored, really. It's truly an outstanding experience for us to come together and study together as a group. So we're going to go over Pluto a little bit today, and then we're going to go to Chiron, Prometheus, because the story of Chiron and Prometheus are very connected. And then also we will do Eris, which happens to be conjunct Chiron right now, and a little bit on Chariklo, the Galactic Shaman Astrologers, which was a group that I studied with before this group, has a wonderful Chariklo video. So I want you to all go into that playlist. There's 38 videos that the Galactic Shaman Astrologers made when they were all studying and telling about it in their chart. So you'll be able to learn a little bit more about it like that. Now, with the Pluto, Pluto is a hard planet, and depending on where it's transiting in your chart, you will have that kind of feeling of abduction into different experiences that can be traumatic and entangling. But what's good about Pluto is it really cuts your personality, like that mask, that personality mask off, because the really great thing about Pluto is that it destroys every level of your habitual behavior. It doesn't allow any habitual behavior. And so in the last video, I told that when my younger daughter had Pluto go over her son, I didn't take her to any of the institutions out there. I let her stay home and just do artwork. It's very important for you to know where the Pluto transit is in your chart, because if you're sending your child off to like indoctrination program, they're being hurt terribly by being asked to stay at that level of personality and obedience and behavior. And Pluto destroys things. All right. It rips away that whole personality thing. It rips away your ego. It can rip away everything in your life depending on what it's hitting. So, you know, if it's Pluto and Juno, that has to do with the marriage bed. And if you were born with that, then you're always processing, like, what happened to my parents' marriage? What happened to my marriage? What is marriage in general? Is it some kind of like ruination program? And Neem Karoli Baba, who was a Baba that I really loved and adored, he said marriage was ruination. So so he would like tell people to get married because they were all kind of uselessly wandering about and taking LSD. And then he would laugh hysterically and say, ha 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 ha, marriage is ruination. The other teacher that I studied with that spoke the same way was Barry Long. Barry Long said, when the ring goes on the finger, the love goes out the door. So Pluto is this planet of destruction of many of the lower habitual qualities and indoctrinating programs that we get into here. So don't be overly afraid of Pluto, but do recapitulate based on what has happened in your chart. And Black Moon Lilith, I've not spoken a lot about, but I can work with anyone privately on that. So after this video, it's really, people need to study privately with a master astrologer. Black Moon Lilith is like the original DNA template of the wild feral, right? So if you have Pluto and Black Moon Lilith, you may have been hybridized, like your deoxyribonucleic acid may have been hybridized way far back. And that would be like, we're going to talk about the rape from the draconian groups that happened. So that's kind of that. And you can consider that. You can often see that in your blood type, in your haplogroups, all the way back to your mitochondrial Y um, strain and your your mother's line mitochondrial DNA. So if you have Black Moon, Lilith, and Pluto, you might have gotten hybridized. We're going to talk about the wound of the hybridization today. And the way that we're going to do this is we're going to actually refer to, again, Carlos Castaneda. So Carlos Castaneda, in some of the books that I've been reviewing, he was aware of a lineage of the last of the indigenous people that practiced shamanism. And during that, he spoke about 3,000 years ago, people were different. People had like an egg-shaped luminosity in which they were shaped with this like energy field that looked like a cosmic egg, okay? And you were a full luminous being. And then something happened about 3,000 years ago that cut that cognition in half. And I'm going to call that Lucifer, Lucifer's rebellion. So during the Iron Age, and I've spoken about this before, there was an incarnation of a being called Lucifer. And that being apparently put some kind of a construct into us that made us duplicitous, right? The way that my daughter explained it when she was about 10 or 11 years old, and listen to your children, listen very carefully to them, because often the children will come in with their full cosmic egg cognition, and then it's through the indoctrination programs that they lose that. But for me, when my daughter was 11 years old, she said this to me. She said, "Mom, I cannot go to school anymore because the people say things different from what they feel. I can hear what they really think and feel, and then what comes out of their mouth is a manipulation." And she would say, "I can't go to school anymore because they're not being honest. They're not being direct. They're not being authentic. They are doing some kind of lying with their language." And I really found that very interesting. When she was 11 years old, she just could not go into the habitual behaviors that were expected in school and that people were not honest. And that very much describes the two different cognitions that are going on here and that Don Juan is trying to explain to Carlos Castaneda. That the true cognition is a divine mind that connects you to infinity. It is the mind that doesn't have like a personality attached. It's not worried about what it's looking like. It speaks freely because it's just authentically present. It's in the now moment. It knows how to converse. It's very telepathic. It feels and hears and knows and responds to the immediate moment of when someone else is in also that immediate moment. I would call it presence, like when someone is fully present or embodied, when they're in their divine mind and they're not wearing a mask and there's no personality about them and they just speak with the truth from their heart and they're not trying to like be cultured or like well mannered or well behaved or some kind of artificial personality construct. The lower cognition, which when Don Juan gets to Carlos Castaneda, the reason that he takes Carlos Castaneda is because he has what's called a double energy body. So he has the lower cognition that humanity has been, I'm going to say, infected with in the subconscious, and he has another energy body above that that connects him to infinity. So even in the 19 whatever, Carlos Castaneda was born in 1925. His name was Carlos Arjona, like a whole bunch of, he was Peruvian. But anyways, he knows what this subconscious mind is because Don Juan tells him to get really close to his friends, and they all have the same belief. They all have the same pattern. They all act in the same way. And it's like a regurgitation of the indoctrination and the wounding and the fearful stuff that they are told to be afraid of. And that, I would say, is most of the cognition of humanity at this point. They're very much habitual, colonized personalities. And they seem to be kind of the same. Like they're all habitual. You know, Sunday they go and do the ritual martyrdom template program, and then it goes back to Monday and they start again. And then they do their colonized mind slavery template. With the higher mind, which is conscious, the lower mind is subconscious, the higher mind is feral. It doesn't behave. It's a creation. It's something that wants to cooperate with others to build something. And that's what we were talking about before the call, how those of us who are conscious are going to need to start cooperating and really building something from our own creation to experience life in a presence of eternity, like knowing that we are eternal beings. The other people that I'm noticing, all they do is regurgitate what was on the news or what was on Netflix, what was on TV, what was in politics, what they heard in some religion. And all they do is obey and believe what they are told. So there's two different cognitions here, right? Then there is now a third cognition. All right, the third cognition is the W, E, A, N. It is because of a modification that happened. And that one is the automated teller machine. Whatever signals are coming through, the automatic teller machine will respond to the signal, whether it's emotional, sexual, physical, a stomach ache, whatever that the ATM has been told in the zeros and ones barcode, they will cooperate with that. That's called a hive mind, or what I call the coffin of conformity. You don't want to get to here, folks. This is a whole new thing. The deletions that happened because of are quite terrifying in terms of your health. But what's more terrifying is I shared a book that I have already reviewed before, and it's just a certain number of pages that are on the community page and on my Facebook. And this is Can You Stand the Truth? Was written in 2009 with a whole bunch of documents to show that this group is going to be moved to a parallel fifth dimensional prison. All right, and that is called the metaverse. So that is that group. This all of this is hybridization, or what I would call rape. Rape of the original wild feral Lilith, the wild feral original freedom to be multidimensional, to interact with our higher mind with direct knowing and experience life as what's called a Homo sapien. This group is now being called Homo techno. That's what Elon Musk calls them. And one of his wives called Grimes. They call them Homo techno. Okay, so this has all been known. They have been working on this for 25,000 years. And the Greys, which I talked about before, the Greys did the abductions until they, practiced the precise way that they could get everybody barcoded. Okay. I showed the group before we started today, my black light. This is something that I cannot shine at your eyes. This is a 365 black light, very powerful. Okay. If you shine this at someone who has had this and is at this level of the barcode, filaments are coming out of their skin. If you shine this on my skin, you will see little filaments like on the top of my skin, but not attached, not in my skin. And that is because of the sprays that they're doing nonstop. Okay. So you want to wash yourself or brush yourself regularly, but you don't want to use any solvents on your skin because that will take it into your bloodstream. All right. So these are the two different levels of cognition. Plus there is a third level now that Don Juan Carlos Castaneda is not aware of that totally connects to what's called 5G plus. 5G plus is going towards entropy. So the biofield from these people will be collected until it's more in the digital twin than their actual physicality, and then they are uploaded to the metaverse. This group, the lower mental group that lives in their subconscious, they are still providing huge amounts of loosh because they watch TV, they watch the Weather Channel, they watch politics. I mean, I don't even know what all these things are, but they watch the machine world, okay? And that puts them into the lower mental, it's below the solar plexus, and I know exactly where it is because when my Kundalini rose up in 1995, it broke, it breaks, it's a thing. It's like a membrane right about where your liver is in your solar plexus, which we're going to talk about the mythology of Prometheus with that particular location. Okay. But most people are just regurgitating all kinds of baloney that is irrelevant to life, truly irrelevant to life. And they're giving the loosh of their emotions, their chemistry, their biology, their biofield nonstop because they're always watching the secret militarized armaments and residential technology. Okay, so this whole thing is a lower level cognition and it provides loosh to, yes, it's energy harvesting. It is energy harvesting to the inorganic beings. The inorganic beings need the nonstop suffering of us, the organic beings. Now, if you know astrology, you have a bridge, the bridge between these, and that is where Chiron comes in. Chiron is the bridge. It's also the symbol of Chiron is the key, because if you know that the subconscious mind is always being played with infrasound and light technologies. I mean, this book, I mean, I don't really, a lot of this book is just baloney, Freemason, and like Rosicrucian, Blavatsky stuff with evidence of their Luciferian structures. But it does have a lot of like government documents showing exactly how they have been doing this loosh harvesting for a very long time. I also want you to see a picture of, there's some interesting pictures in here. So they also know about the higher mental plane and the lower mental plane. And they also know about how different language has been used to alter our fire codes. And they also show pictures of some of the creatures that have been created, real creatures. And what does that thing look like? It looks like the Golem out of the Lord of the Rings. There are tons of bizarre creatures in here with us. All right. So this book is very interesting. They also have pictures of Moses. And if you don't know what Moses was a reptilian and he's got horns coming out of the crown of his head. Well, there goes the book. It's on the floor now. Anyways, the hybridization program, we have been used for many, many, many experiments. So wherever Chiron is in your chart, that's where you're working with that wound of hybridization. So the big long story of Chiron is that his mother was a sea nymph, some kind of a sea creature, and he was raped by an interdimensional that allegedly came from Saturn, and his mother was raped. What does that mean? Does it mean that she had sex with something? Or does it mean sound technology, light technology, and weird aerosol sprays were used? That's what it means. So often when you hear these stories of rape in the old mythologies, what we're actually talking about is the creation of a lot of hybrids and monster experiments upon the human race, just like the picture that I just showed you of the golem. Okay. So when I watched The Lord of the Rings, and I did that as research for our group, I was like, wow, listen to this. Tolkien's work, and he was apparently a very strict Catholic, but I gotta tell you, the Catholics and the Freemasons are the same. All right. One of them, the Catholics worship Satan and the Freemasons worship Lucifer. And Lucifer and Satan kind of go like this in the astral realms, folks. I just want you to know. All right. So the Jehovah and Anunnaki religions those are satanic. So it's based on the endless, perpetual Holocaust that goes on in here. Lucifer is the other side. Those are the Rosicrucians, the Freemasons, the Rudolf Steiner people. They love their Lucifer. They also love their Christ, and they also love their Ahriman because they have no idea of the galactic level of this. And so they're really just two sides going like this, walking along. Okay. So Tolkien was apparently a Catholic, but it's all the same stuff, folks. It's exactly the same stuff. And so he talked about the Lord of the Rings and the 9 rings, which are the 9 different planetary rings that were given some kind of special power, right? That's that whole thing. And then this golem thing, right? What is this golem thing? It's the weird hybrids. And you've got all these different races. The elven race in the Lord of the Rings are the ancient Atlanteans that live inside the earth. So you've got Asgard, you've got Midgard, and you've got the Hell Realm. Okay. So we've all been hybridized except for the inner earth. The inner earth beings, the ancient Atlanteans, look kind of elven. They're very tall. They're very beautiful. They live inside of the earth. So that's who we all used to be. We're these beautiful 12 different tribes, but beautiful ancient Atlantean beings. And prior to that, we were also Lemurian. So at some point, the surface population and only the surface population got hybridized. And now we have another layer of hybridization that is purely digital. And if you use this on the forehead of someone who is purely digital in the dark, you shine a dark light, they will have filaments coming out of their skin. I showed the whole group before this call that I have tiny little fibers, which, any day, like this morning, there was a huge fog. You use that black light and you'll see those fibers all over you. But they don't go into my body because I have not been changed. I am still 100% me. So Chiron in your chart is this wound of hybridization. And we've been perpetrated against, raped again and again and again. During the Iron Age, we were made into horrible predators. We were made into vicious monsters. And then we started to come up out of that because there is a fail-safe something in our deoxyribonucleic acid. There is a fail-safe in that that brings you back to your multidimensionality. There is absolutely a fail-safe in that. But if you keep doing these things, these distractions, these emotional reactions, these energy harvesting, and you're glued to it because you can't stop looking at it, you're going towards this. You're depleting your crystalline template that connects you back up to your divine mind. Or if you're adding energy, if you're going towards that divine mind, you have to spend a lot of time cultivating that and recognizing all the distractions. So Barry Long called it energy leaking when you're like watching porn or doing video games or politics, or even Barry Long was very against science. He thought science was the biggest sorcery going out there. So Barry Long was very against science. The main thing that Barry Long taught and Neem Karoli Baba was the now moment. Be where you are right now. Whereas if you're watching the Weather Channel, you're continually in a state of freak out about what's out there. And you know what? They need you to freak out because that's how they create the weather event, is your belief. They only can do it if you consent to it by watching it. And that's the same with all of these events, is they can do it because they have to tell you about it. And then your lower mental state of your personality starts regurgitating it and saying it again and then talking about it. I had a few people this week that started their session absolutely sobbing because of what they saw on a screen, which is not your now moment, right here, right now. And that's what the rewilding retreat is very about, like learning how to be in the now moment in nature and not needing all of these machines, not needing all of the technology. And in Carlos Castaneda's book, in his introduction, he writes the introduction again. And he says that he had to leave anthropology altogether because the anthropologists really didn't like the field work, the actual experience. They just wanted to be academic about it. So they're in a different cognition, whereas he wanted to be present in the presence of a master shaman, which he called Don Juan at that time. All right. So there's two types of presence: the now experience of what you're actually experiencing right now, or the presence, the consumerism, the consumer items that you think you need, none of which you need. None of which you need. Any inorganic thing you do not actually need. You only need organic things with presence, okay? So these are the two things. And the wound of hybridization, which is Chiron in your chart, is where you're interacting with the wound. So if it's in your first house, if Chiron's in your first house, you very much have that wound within your own physical body, and you've got to like work out that wound, that feeling of the subconscious mind, which is always dragging you into this anxiety or into that suffering or into that terror and so forth. If Chiron's in your second house, it's like the wound that you feel as an outcast in your values, your resources, your self-worth, and like you're trying to prove yourself through your resources that you somehow fit in, okay? Through your job, through your money, through your affluence, that somehow you fit in. That's Chiron in the second house. Chiron in the third house might be your early study. You were an outcast in school, you were an outcast in the neighborhood, you were somehow different from the other children, and so forth, like that. In third house, Chiron in the fourth house, you're the black sheep of the family, right? You're the one who doesn't fit in with the rest of the family, and you are meant to be the black sheep, okay? In the fifth house, you might have really strange, like outcast, does not fit in creativity or even sexuality. And then the sixth house, there's some kind of a wound in your health or your daily routine. Chiron in the seventh house is like the other person is extremely wounded. The other person, and you are trying to help or reflect or help mirror that other person because the first house is you. Then the eighth house is the wound of being abandoned through death, through debt, through having to continually let go of things. Chiron in the ninth house is like, oh no, I'm an oracle and I don't fit in. Oh my gosh, I have such intense dreams and I don't know who to talk to. These dreams are really metaphysical, strange, shamanic dreams, whatever. That could be Chiron in the ninth house, or you feel like an outcast from the so-called, God thing of who knows what it is that people think God is anymore, because we are God, and anything, these other things that are requiring your attention are probably not. They really require your suffering. And then Chiron in the 10th house would be like a strange career that you're trying to fit in, but you don't fit in the workplace. You have no idea what to do with your job or your vocation. And the 11th house is like an outcast in the big global community. And the 12th house, Chiron, would be like you have demonic whispers. You don't know where these things are coming from. Why don't I fit in? I don't know what the problem is. Something's always messing with my mind, and I can't figure out where is this scary stuff coming from. So that's kind of a very general overview. And then Chiron can be conjunct things. Chiron can be conjunct Venus. It can be conjunct Mars. That would be painful. Honestly, that would be very painful. Chiron can be conjunct Saturn, and you're absolutely lonely, terribly lonely, cold, alone, restricted. Ugh. So that's all the different, places that Chiron can be. But here's the story of Chiron. After his mother gave birth to him, his mother abandoned him because he was so strange and different that she could not raise him. So Chiron went off to the mountain and he lived by himself on Mount Pelion. So he was a centaur. He was part interdimensional being, whatever that was, raped by an interdimensional being. He was part sea creature and he was part horse. So he was a really mixed up character of many different things. So what Chiron had to do was he went and lived in a cave all by himself on Mount Pelion. And then after many years of inward searching, of really self-examination, of really looking within, he started to learn from nature, from the plants, from the animals. He would study the stars. He became a master astrologer. So Chiron is known as a master astrologer. And he also did target practice with his bow and arrow. So he was a wonderful archer, like the centaur who was also an archer. So the other part of Chiron is, yes, it's the wound. It's the feeling of being abandoned or outcast or hybridized or different in some way. And then it separates you from the rest of so-called society so that you can develop your own gifts and learn in solitude through nature and study of the stars and be able to hit the mark. Like, what is the arrow, right? He's able to hit the mark, the truth, the centaur who shoots for the truth and can hit the mark. So Chiron, wherever it is in your chart, is where you feel wounded. But when you work through that, you start to find all the gifts of that outcast place, of that being abandoned. Now, Claude said I could use his chart. So Claude has Chiron conjunct his north node, which is a very interesting place to have it also. And on September 17th, Claude looked, he only like once or twice a month looks at his email, but he looked at his email and he was pretty upset with what's going on with the family stuff now that he's an orphan. And there was some weird family stuff. And he was so angry. And he said, quote, "I've wasted my entire life trying to fit in with this family." And he slammed the laptop shut. That is a very important story. So if you have Chiron really prominent, like on your north node, like Claude does, and it's in the 8th house where he has to let go. Yeah, there's nothing he can hold on to about this. Bravo, Claude. Yes, bravo, bravo. I don't know if he can hear me. The door is open. But anyways, yes, he was like, I've wasted my whole life trying to fit in this family. And he just shut the laptop because the laptop literally was the machine world. It was the lower mind. It was the subconscious mind. In the moment, his life's perfect. Right here and right now in this cabin, walking around in this yard, life is perfect. Life is beautiful in this now moment. So the whole thing about Chiron is like being in the cave, being separated, even being outcast from society is not so bad. Being separated from society is not so bad. Not fitting in with your family, not so bad. Pretty good. Actually, there's a gift there if you're present. If you're present in this now moment. There's no struggle, there's no suffering, because it doesn't matter. It's over there. So stop trying to fit in with that family. Stop it. And then you're not feeding the loosh machine of the suffering. So that's very Chiron. And Chiron's orbit is 50 years. So when you're 50, and there's also, like when you're 25, you also have a Chiron opposition. And then when you're 50, it comes back to your natal Chiron. So when you're like 48 and 50, you'll go through those same wounds again. You'll go through like wherever and however you were supposed to be outcast from your family or outcast from society or outcast from the financial world or whatever all the baloney is of the 9 rings of the lords of power, right? Chiron is the planet that goes through them all in a long elliptical orbit. So when I tried to make a live video this week of Manly P. Hall's book, The Rosicrucians, the Masonic and the Kabbalistic religions, they're religions, whether people think they are or not, they are religions, they are belief programs. So yes, and we will also look at Chiron retrograde. So when I was showing, they showed this picture again and again with a key above the lion's head. And the key was at the top of the spiral, right? The antenna, the crystal antenna that connects you to the sun. The key was on top, just below a crown on the lion's head. And all of those people know that that key is the key to the higher realms of your true freedom, of your feral self, of your multidimensionality, is you have to get through this wound where you feel like you don't fit in with your family. You feel like you're not part of the tribe. You feel like you're never going to be accepted. This week I had a call with someone who took and it was the first time, and I agreed to take her. But when she said she had to, because of her job, I was like, I quit my job. I ended my career. And so that's the Chiron key, folks, is that being outcast from all of this bizarre seen realm of the lower cognitive state, who cares? Who cares? It means nothing. It's all demiurge inversion stuff. The wild, feral, active side of infinity is only going to go this way. They will not submit and get on the entropy path down there. So this is a major pep talk, folks, because we talked before the session of what's coming. All right. You've got to go to the unseen realms, to the direct knowledge, to the higher cognition. Go that way to the true experience of what a human is, not the regurgitated programs of indoctrination down here, where they're always trying to loosh feed from us until you're the ultimate loosh device. Okay, that ends up in a phantom matrix. And that is all very well explained in Can You Stand the Truth? And I put those pages up for you all to read. Okay, so that's the Chiron thing. Chiron retrograde, and you know, in the ephemeris by progression, it can also go direct, but it's reviewing whatever hybridization rate that your family has been through. Whatever hybridization rape your family has been through, you got to look back at it, you got to study it, you got to remember, rewind, all of that kind of stuff. And we're kind of doing that right now. We're remembering, we're rewinding that during the Iron Age, some other thing happened, and we're going to get into Prometheus about that. Okay. So Prometheus and Chiron are a very tight story. In Prometheus's story, we know that the so-called gods, which are the satanic space fleet of the Anunnaki, the Jehovian Anunnaki, apparently tied and bound this Titan, a Titan, Prometheus, to the Caucasus Mountains with chains that could not be broken. Chains like the DNA strand, chains that could not be broken. And every day his liver was eaten out. Liver, which is right there, folks, in the solar plexus. I know that's where it is because when my Kundalini rose up, it broke it. It literally smashed it. It kept smashing it until it broke. And then my Kundalini came all the way up. But in the liver is where we process all of those emotions, whether it's rage, fear, suffering, terror. The liver to be eaten out daily and then to be regenerated. So Prometheus is punished by this. And that loosh is the psychic, emotional, or chemical energy that is feeding these inorganic beings in the unseen realm. So that's why I love Carlos Castaneda's books, because it's not about sorcery. People think it's about sorcery. It's about shamanism. It's about understanding these unseen things that need us to continually witness the script of the ritual sacrifice, the martyrdom template every Sunday. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, then we start again. Sunday, Monday, and it's endless. Every Sunday. And that's why those of us who are trying to talk to our real star, the Christ, the star, which is the son of the sun, it's like not responding. It needs help. So go all the way back to my video of the suns, right? The various solar consciousnesses. It's like psychopathic. And that goes back to the video I did on genuflect, where they literally do this stuff. And don't you know it? Between the two eclipses, they did it. They did on the 14th, between the two eclipses, the pulling down of the sun. Again, giving a huge loosh feed to the demonic. And what's scary about it is that there was almost like this time with this event, it was like they were making fun of us too. It was so creepy because those of us who know what's going on, it was like clown world pokes at us. Like we're living in some buffoonery now where they're poking us while the rest of the people believe and are terrified, and it's horrible and it's the most disgusting thing you can imagine. And yet it's massively broadcast as a spell between the two eclipses. That's how they do it. And the lower mind gets really terrified and can't believe it. And it's like, oh my gosh, the sheep are running to the slaughterhouse. And that's what some of my clients were most upset about, was seeing the sheep of our humankind, our family, our beautiful family, being herded to the slaughterhouse with one distraction after the next. One distraction, next distraction. It's like the wolves, and the wolves are not like this, actually. Wolves are not like this. Wolves are very playful and wonderful cooperative beings. But it was like, just like chasing on the heels of all the sheep. So Prometheus actually symbolizes our enlightenment, our soul's journey to the stars, because what happens in this mythology is that Chiron gets wounded. So in the last kind of battle, the other centaurs like Nessus and the other bad centaurs who were creepy and crazy and had not gone into the Mount Pelion cave of seclusion to study nature and the stars and archery, the other ones are all drunk, crazy people. And so they shoot Chiron, and Chiron has a wound in his Achilles tendon. All right. So he's wounded in the fetlock for people who wear horse people, right? He's wounded, he's shot with an arrow, poisonous arrow in the fetlock. So then he can't die because, like all of us, we're immortal. So what Chiron does is he goes to Prometheus, our enlightenment state, and he says, look, I can't die. So I'm going to take my place. I'm going to take your place. I'm taking your place now so that you, Prometheus, can be free again. And the story of Chiron is that he goes up to the mountain, the Caucasus Mountains, and he takes Prometheus off of the mountain, unchains him, trades places with him. And in that moment, he allegedly gets the honors of the gods, the so-called gods, and he is able to ascend to the stars, back to the stars. But the point of this story is that you also are a wounded, hybridized, eternal being like Chiron. And you have one of two choices. You can either continue to have your liver eaten out every day, be angry, be suffering, be sad, try to fit in with your family, try to make somebody actually accept you in the tribe or whatever. Or you can just be yourself and live as a feral thing and study the stars and nature from your cave. And then you might be able to get back your original Promethean enlightenment and go back to the stars. Because people are still asking me this, like, how do we do this? Well, first of all, you have to be present, be here now, and be in the beauty of the body, as hybridized as it is. And I showed the little fibers on my arm, and I actually picked one off earlier. I couldn't really show the group because it was like on my finger. They're purple and they're green, these little fibers, and I picked one off and I had it on my finger, and it's actually like a creature, folks. These are inorganic, sentient creature devices. They're like synthetic parasites that are being sprayed on us nonstop. So you have to really build your energy body so that even those creepy crawlers can't get you. You have to be the enlightenment. You have to be the presence. And so your way back through the stars is to incorporate whatever we need to incorporate here in terms of our wound and our trauma. And Don Juan is asking Carlos Castaneda to recapitulate some of the worst events because, according to Don Juan, what the inorganic beings eat, if you should, for some reason, lose your body, your body dies, but you are still a consciousness. They eat in that life review all your unresolved personality sufferings. So they literally, that's why they give the life review, is because they consume everything that happened to you. So if you recapitulate it, if you make it conscious, if you study the stars and know why that happened, where your Chiron is, then you're not in this space of subconscious delusion, and they can trick you into be like, oh, look what you did bad there. Look what you did bad there. Look what you did bad there. You have to go back again. You can be like, no, I've already resolved all of that. I am resolved. I am not going back. I am going back to the primordial oneness. And when Don Juan is teaching Carlos Castaneda, they take off, as I said, from the top of a plateau in the Sonoran Desert by dancing. What are they dancing? They're doing a DNA dance, folks. They're rolling back and forth on the ground, which is what I did this morning and yesterday morning and the morning before that. It's a rolling, spinning, spin rate, divine blueprint to the stars dance. That's what that is. Okay. Now, I also wanted to speak about the fact that Prometheus is traveling right now retrograde. So someone asked about retrograde. With Saturn retrograde right now and was prominent in the last eclipse. So for all of us, it's the Promethean dilemma. I called it the Promethean dilemma. Which way are you going to go? Are you going to keep watching the screaming terror? And I know there's screaming terror, but do you need to stick your nose in that pile of shit every day, all day long? Truly, folks. And then pay me $150 to talk about it? Or do you just want to stop doing that? Stop putting your nose in the pile of shit on the Weather Channel or on whatever device that you're watching, and start to get out there into the wild feral again. Because when it's prominent, conjunct Saturn, Prometheus conjunct Saturn, they're probably going to keep doing this. And it was conjunct Saturn and Neptune and the previous eclipse too. So that means they are going to keep doing this bizarre stuff and then publicizing it because they need a huge amount of loose feed to create the next hologram of their parallel reality. Now, they said they had accomplished it in 2021, but they're building their energy through your body, your biofield, what you respond to, what you know is true. Or you can go and live in the cave and study the stars and study nature and study archery. That's what I'm planning to do. So during this eclipse, Eris was conjunct Chiron. Chiron's at 26, Eris is at 25. They've been traveling together for quite some time. And the story of Eris, and certainly I know that there's a video out there that I've done already of Eris with the Galactic Shaman Astrologers, but Eris with Chiron together right now is that Eris is the discord and strife of the hybridization that's happening. And before this call, I was speaking with my daughter, and she was literally afraid. And her roommate, her apartment mate, was late to work because someone in the neighborhood was screaming like violent obscenities. So, and my daughter was like, "Don't go outside. Don't go outside. Oh my gosh, don't go outside right now. Mom, what should we do? We can't tell who's screaming, but they sound really angry and really violent." So that's kind of like also like we're surrounded with some high strange now, folks. The turning of the deletions that have happened because of this. It took out compassion. That was the main thing that it took out. It took out, and I put up a link to it. The heart, the aortic valve is affected by the deletion, of course, and several other things. But that deletion that they did with this new hybrid race makes for extreme violence. So we're going to have to really separate. That's part of the bifurcation. And Eris is acknowledging what must be acknowledged, even if it causes discord and strife. And that's conjunct Chiron. So I'm acknowledging this right now. And, people are going to call me a communist or whatever name that, they come up with next, a conspiracy theorist, or who knows, an anti this, an anti that, a disinformation agent, a shill. I mean, whatever word that they come up with. In the 40s, it was the communists, like everyone was afraid of the communists. So they're probably going to do that. Eris will acknowledge the truth and the fact. Because I'm in my higher mind and I have a double energetic structure, I know I have a lower mind too. I'm not saying I have a personality too, but I also am very connected to my higher mind and infinity, and nothing's going to take me off that path. So that for me is that Eris part. Like, it might be discord and strife coming up, folks, if you're not hybridized. We talked about that before we started the recording today. So in London, they just said you can't get a job unless you're a hybrid. All right. They're rolling out all kinds of baloney now. And AI is running the government. So it's going to be pretty interesting. Eris is discord and strife, though, but she throws in a golden apple where everyone else is just gossiping and saying the same habitual thing. She throws in the golden apple and she makes people acknowledge really what needs to be acknowledged. But then she never gets invited to the party again. So if you read the story of, yes, Eris and Chiron that are exactly transiting someone in the group's natal sun. Yeah, I was going to talk to you about that this week, but I knew we were going to do this thing. So yes, if you have anything at 25 or 26 degrees Aries, you have Chiron and Eris on it right now. And that is where Claude's Saturn is. So this all goes back to his father and him not fitting in with the family. So that's where Chiron is transiting. If it's transiting your sun, you might also feel like you don't fit in with this family. For Claude, it's particularly from his father wound. All right. So he's got to acknowledge that. And it came out of his mouth this week. And I was like, write that down, honey. That's one of your recapitulations right there. You've been trying to fit in with this family your entire life, and it's never going to work. So stop doing it. And then he stops wasting his energy. He stops suffering. He stops beating the crap out of himself all the time. That's the thing you've got to understand about Chiron. So during the eclipse and still right now, it's conjunct Eris. And then Chariklo, I wanted to speak about Chariklo. Chariklo is part of this story too, because she helps Chiron overcome his wound, even see some of the gifts from his hybridization. And so Chariklo is the ability to shapeshift to best serve love. So I want to say, keep paddling, everybody, even if you've eaten the titanium dioxide. All right. Even if you've got microfibers all over your skin, keep paddling. Don't give up. There is a certain fail safe mechanism in this whole design here that even after the Luciferian rebellion, and Lucifer had an incarnation about 3,000 years ago, then, we still can rise up from that. According to that book, Can You Stand the Truth? It was during the Kissinger administration where they felt like humanity was rising up above that hybridization wound. And that's when they started the 5D New Age movement. So they started that all the way back in Kissinger's time. And I was like, wow. And they have all the documents of how they did. So they have religion and they have Freemasonry, right? You got public school and you got the Waldorf school. They're always going to do both sides, do that and that, that and that. Both of them are indoctrination programs. But then they had to do a whole level of another indoctrination program for those of us who were starting to come into our higher mind. And they called that the New Age. And they said, oh, we're going to be 5D. Well, that book that was written in 2009, they already knew that 5D was going to be the artificial heaven, the prison, the metaverse, the hell realm. And so they also made tons of those. It's been a series of this. It's been many, many additives to our food and so forth that have changed us and hybridized us and what I would call raped us. Those are the chiropractic wounds. So in your chart, wherever that is how it's affecting you now. And yes, Sandy, the signal is weirding out just like it did on my live stream this week. And one person just left the call because the internet is potentially not working. More and more of that is going to go on. So this might be my last video ever. I want you to know, I'll do what I can to see what we can do. All right. And then, like I tried to do a live stream this week, 20 minutes of it disappeared. Only a minute and 40 seconds came out. So my suggestion to you is that you want to go the way of the leaf. Very gentle, floating, not worrying too much in the now present moment. And you'll land somewhere. You'll be okay. If you get on this, which they're advertising like crazy now, you get on this, this is the inorganic beings. All right. I would not get on anything like this ever. Like Katy Perry. Weird, weird stuff, folks. They're also doing something really bizarre with this stuff. Please stay with the way of the leaf. This natural organic being will definitely make it through the sun. All right. Even if it has a few fibers on it, because we all do. All right. But if you hybridize yourself, the only way you can go is through machines. Don't do it. Don't do it. And people asked more about how do you get through? So your DNA is an antenna to the stars. This is literally the movement of the planets. So no matter how you look at it, your astrology is your magnetized light body. These little planets are nodes on the double helix. Okay? This is your magnetized light body, your astrology. How you go through is you activate it all. You make it all conscious. And that's why astrology was given to the human race, so that we could make it conscious. And yet, if you read the Quran or the Bible, they both have many different specific references that say you cannot study the stars. Why? Because then they can continually do rituals and propaganda to get a loose feed for the Lord, right? So that's that. Now let's look at Chiron and make sure I've got everything. So it is the only planet in the 9 rings that does not have a regular orbit. Pluto's a little bit weird too, as I showed you in that video, because Pluto is an ice object that came in here. And yet, if you listen to Tolkien, these 9 beings became the Nagul, Sauron's most terrible servants, bound to his will, the Lord of the Rings. So 1 ring to rule them all, 1 ring to find them, 1 ring to bring them all, and the singularity to bind them. Now there's 2 different singularities. All right. There's the machine singularity of the coffin of conformity, in which you're in a machine world, or there's the natural 12 disciples of the seasonal depictions, the 12 disciples and the 9 rings of power. That's what astrology is. And yet the Bible says again and again and again, you are not allowed to study it. I wonder who wrote that. I mean, would a creator who created this write that you're not allowed to look at it and study it? Chiron overcame his wound by studying astrology, by studying plants and nature, by getting away from the world. He couldn't fit in with his family. He spent his life trying to fit in. Eventually, he went and lived in the cave, and he was perfectly happy and at peace. So those are the teachings of Chiron. When you're 50, it comes back. And what Demetra taught me, and there's also several other books about Chiron, that if you have not healed that wound, you can have a heart attack. Your heart is broken by this, and your heart is the main vortex of the body, right? So it's a spinning vortex. I had another book that I wanted to also tell you again about the modes of electricity that we are these electrical nodes, and the faster you move, the faster your internal body moves, your spin rate increases. That is how you become a multidimensional being again and are not stuck in the Promethean dilemma of having the perpetual Holocaust happen here. And yes, so astrology, let's get the other book. I was going to say, you might find me fall off the daybed onto the floor there. But this is the lost key to the scriptures. So I've read this before. Yes, the Bible, the whole thing about religion is it tells you not to do it, but it puts all its rituals on like the first full moon after the equinox or something, like the first, I mean, all of it is astrological and all the symbols are in there. And the lost key to the scriptures tells you how to really read the scriptures and what they're about. But I did in one video, I think it was in my BitChute. So I'm going to talk to you about this a little bit. And the real key to the scriptures. All right. This is an electrical realm of creation. All creation is made of ether fields. Ether has 3 modes: dielectricity, magnetism, and electricity. Those are the 3 modes. When ether is charged, it is counterspatial or dielectricity. When ether discharges, we call that magnetism. And then when it expands, we call that physical 3D space. When magnetism spins In the dielectric field, it creates electricity, and then light is a transverse wave of sine and cosine, represented as two serpents of the Kundalini that intertwine up the central staff. Electricity, magnetism with a longitudinal dielectrical pulse, AK called the staff of the body. So when they talk about King Arthur and how King Arthur recharged Excalibur, if you read Voyagers Volume 2, she talks about how King Arthur, not just the Christ, but King Arthur and the House of Camelot, recharged that original staff, that Excalibur staff. So that's some of how we also overcome the hybridization. It wasn't just the 12-strand avatar, the Christ, who was never martyred, by the way, and had 6 different families and definitely has a Merovingian bloodline here. But also King Arthur put the staff of the original human, which was called Excalibur, and apparently threw it somewhere off of the waters of the coast of Ireland. So this electrical pulse, which is what we are, travels up through an electromagnetic field and then waves, causing illumination, which is what we call light. So when I was reading the Carlos Castaneda, he had the same experience as me. We're in a void. This is actually void. And out of us are these white strands of light, these real white strands of light. We are literally luminosity. That's what we are. And then we create the 3D that you see, the material substances that you see is an interaction of my white strand of light, your white strand of light, my dog's white strand of light, the tree's white strand of light. Oh, that cut out? Boy, you guys, if I'm cutting out in this video, this is going to be my last video because this is now they're definitely cutting me out. Okay. So that is how this oscillation happens is we are electrical. We are electrical. So if you realize that we're creating all this and it's an antenna to our sun, some people are hearing me. So some people are not hearing me. So it's by country also. And Mary Ellen, you have also seen those strands of light. Yeah. So we are literally making this up. So when we go through the sun, those of us who are still humans, who are still creator beings, we will create a whole new reality. That's why the first time that I had my major void experience was after watching What Dreams May Come in 1995. 1995, I saw Robin Williams. He went through and he, with his own imagination, he created all these new paradise realities because you are a creator being. You are a creator being unless you are being programmed by the lower cognition all the time. Or if you are now barcoded, you got a lot of work to do to get from this coffin of conformity, Google, back up to your divine connection. You got a ways to paddle, folks, but keep going. Keep going. All right. Don't give up. All right. People are able to hear me now. So what I'm going to do now is open this up to questions. Chiron is just like any of the outer planets. Again, it's not a personal planet, but it can become personal if it's like on your ascendant or conjunct your sun or transiting your sun. It can start to be personal, but otherwise it doesn't rule any of the seasonal depictions, doesn't rule any of the signs, but its geometry is important. And the major movements over your chart, you might feel wounded and outcast, but if you can read the astrology, you can be like, oh, that's just temporary. It's temporary. And one of the other things that Neem Curly Baba used to say, other than be here now, which he was always like, be here now, stop talking about something that happened 40 years ago. And Barry Long also taught that enlightenment is now. But Neem Curly Baba, his thing was like that people were in a hurry and they were also worried and they were also eating curry. Like you're hurrying, you're worrying, and then you're eating curry. And then your mind is disturbed and you're hurrying and worrying and eating curry. And so there was a lot of jokes. But Neem Curly Baba just mostly like sat in the unseen realms. He was just quiet and inside his own internal cave. So that's when I know that I'm in the presence of a master. All right, the hurry, curry, and worry. Yeah. So if you get hurried, then you go eat curry, and then you're gonna worry. That's this lower cognition level. You got to be here now, be in the now moment. All right. Who has questions or any comments or whatever you might want to talk to me about? I don't I don't know if curry's really bad, but it is very stimulating. It can stimulate you. Yeah. You do have to be careful what you eat, folks. There's weird stuff. I love curry too, but Chiron in the 12th house, yeah, the wound is very hidden with Chiron in the 12th house. So you have to kind of bring it out and figure out what is it in your psychic realm or in the hidden like demons that control your mind or your thoughts, you're worried, and the retrograde, yeah, is you're just going to review it. Anything that's retrograde, whether it's Pluto, Mercury, it doesn't matter. So whether it's an outer planet or an inner planet, or Chiron is the bridge planet, like it bridges the whole of the 9 rings of power. If it's retrograde, it's rewind, it's review, it's like look back, recapitulate, try and figure out what's the wound of your whole family that you brought through in your mother's womb. Maybe you're outcast also in a good way. Maybe your DNA template is different than other people's like outcast doesn't mean bad, folks. Sometimes being a Chiron hybrid at this point, as long as you're not down here in the barcode reality, with the positive ionization in plastic blood, you're still doing pretty good. And if you are down there, you need some help fast, folks. You need to get on this immediately. But if you're in this lower mental state of the subconscious and you're always wounded or you're always worried or you're always hurried or you're always eating curry, this is totally a joke, but then you have to review and rewind the retrograde 12th house Chiron. That's very like look into the whole wound of the entire collective unconscious. Okay, yeah. So people are making comments. Anybody want to talk or speak about something, or should I end the recording, or what do you want to do now? Chariklo is the ability to shapeshift to help somebody heal their wound too. So Chariklo you should pay attention to in your chart. Mine is conjunct my north node. So I'm always like, I'm very chameleon like. I can shapeshift to whatever anyone needs from me. And I will listen to wherever they are and then help serve. I mean, Chariklo is a beautiful planet with beautiful rainbow rings. So, like Jupiter, she's very benefic. Chariklo and Chiron are often in the same house because Chariklo is a 63-year orbit, Chiron's a 50-year orbit, and they travel in what's called the Centaur group, the long elliptical Centaur group. Nessus is also in with that group, but Nessus is the other kind of Centaur, the rapist, the murder, the blood poisoning. Nessus is abuse, whereas Chiron is just the wound of hybridization. We've all been hybridized. All of us are some level of hybridization. The new level of hybridization, though, is the one that really concerns me. That's the metaverse one. That's the phantom matrix, entropy, space dust return. Ouch. Yeah. And if you want to use the numbers, all right, Chiron, pretty much astro.com uses Chiron, but Chariklo is 10199. 10199. You have to put that one in for additional objects 10199. And then Eris is just a planet beyond Pluto that has a 330-year orbit. So Eris is a way outer planet, whereas the Centaur groups is inside the 9 rings of power, inside an elliptic, whereas Eris is way out beyond Pluto. So she has a 330-year orbit. Virtually everyone on the planet, unless you're like a vampire or an immortal, you have Eris and Aries because it's a 330-year orbit. So that's very interesting. Any other questions right now? So I just want to celebrate you all. I mean, as I said when we began, I am so amazed that you gave up these Sunday afternoons to study like this. It's truly amazing. And Claude is here too. And they gave you a lot of kudos and gratefulness for your bravery of when you recognized that you wasted your whole life trying to fit in with the family. They're a lot. Yeah, we will miss next Sunday, but the good news is for those of you who can make the retreat, if you haven't made your reservation, you still have time, do it. I no longer have a hold on the rooms, so you just have to go. You have to get a room if you want a room, and I have reserved an extra one for any last minute people. But otherwise, I will see some of you. We will actually be together. That is so exciting. Yeah, we will heal our outcast wounding by being able to be together and be wild and feral. And yeah, if anybody wants to split room costs and so forth, there are people in the group that are looking to share rooms. And I'm not charging anything for the retreat. It's just like you got to pay for your transportation. You got to get there yourself. You got to pay for your room. You got to pay for your food and stuff. Just looking, yeah, it's been an honor. It's been wonderful to be with you all. And yeah, it's just beautiful. And we'll figure out something after November. We'll see what's going on at that point, because I think it's November 17th when some things are going to start really changing. Those are the dates that I've seen. So I'll be swimming in the springs pretty soon, my darlings. And I'll say bye-bye for now.